Holy shit, it's Bleeding Priest Bay Area Metal Spotlight. Who's this fresh-faced pup talking to you right here? Yeah, new year, new face, or new old face. And yeah, I shave my beard off every January. It's just a thing I do. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about my face. I'm here to talk about Laaz Rockit, Know Your Enemy. Ripping Bay Area metal album. This is the first album where they really started getting their sound that most people are familiar with. They're like the Annihilation Principle era sound, the real crushing guitar tone and more in a thrash direction. I wouldn't go as far as to say that Laaz Rockit, at least not on this album, they're not a thrash band yet, but they're definitely heading in that direction, especially compared to the album that came prior to this, No Stranger to Danger, which was kind of the weakest album of all of their entire discography, I would say, and not very heavy. Like their debut is fantastic, City's Gonna Burn, and very promising. And they kind of took a step backwards with No Stranger to Danger, and just kind of more of like a radio-friendly sound. I don't know how you'd put it, but they came back with a vengeance with this album. This is my favorite Laaz Rockit album. Most folks will pick the follow-up, Annihilation Principle, and that's a brilliant album as well, and definitely more thrashy. But I just dig the songs on this album a little more. And Mike Coons, I think he's at his peak. The vocalist, I think he's at his peak on this record. Most Dangerous Game is probably my favorite Laaz Rockit song. Brilliant songwriting, vocals again, just make the song soar. Mike Coons was a very special vocalist and doesn't get enough credit. Laaz Rockit doesn't get enough credit, period. They were pretty influential in the Bay Area scene and pretty big. Like they went in the early 80s. They were the band that most bands opened up for. They were the shit, you know, and then they got a little bigger in the late 80s and got more thrash, but kind of got lost in the shuffle with other thrash bands that had been doing it longer or were just a little more vicious with their sound. I don't know why they didn't get bigger than they did, but this album is fucking fantastic. It's the first record to feature their mascot Crunch, and I love this album cover. This is like USA all the way. Very flag waving. And this copy, I bought this record at a place in Grass Valley called Clock Tower Records. I think that's what it's called. And at some point in time, Ron Quintana was involved with that store, and he was selling records there. And then he eventually opened up his own store, Ron's Real Records. I think that's what it's called. But his collection, some of his collection's still at Clock Tower Records, I believe. And I believe this is from his collection. Although the back would tell me different. The back right here, you'll see it's autographed by guitarist Aaron Gellum. And it's for a guy named Mikey. And he writes, "Mikey, let's smoke some." So Mikey, if you're out there, I have your record. And I'll sell it to you for $1 million. So, yeah, I actually have a little bit of history with Laaz Rockit. The only audition I didn't get was auditioning for Laaz Rockit. I was 18 years old. I had just moved out of the house. I was living in Hayward. And a good friend of mine, Scott Sargent, had just joined Laaz Rockit. And they had a tour of Japan coming up. And they needed a drummer to, I don't know if it was a permanent spot or just filling in for that tour. Either way, it was a trip to Japan. So I was like, fuck yeah. He called me up and asked me. I was like, fuck yeah. I want to jam with these guys and I'll give it a shot, you know. And I learned the 4 or 5 songs he asked me to learn. I actually knew 4 out of the 5 songs already because I had Annihilation Principle. And I think I had this on cassette. But I was familiar with this album. So it didn't take much learning. Anyways, I went to the audition and I was just too excited. I was too young, too excited. I played the songs way too fast. I remember the bass player they had at the time, who was kind of a dick. I remember him telling me to slow it down like while we're playing. And he was right. I knew I was just way too excited and just trying to show off how fast I could play and how fast I could do double bass and all that shit. So it was it wasn't a train wreck, but it definitely wasn't tight. And I didn't get the audition. Like Scott called me a day or two later and said we're going to go with someone else, and I wasn't surprised. I could tell by their reaction that I didn't cut the mustard per se. I knew the songs. I just played them kind of recklessly, kind of like how I still play now. I do remember one of the guys. I won't say who. I remember one of the guys casually talking about doing a bunch of cocaine earlier in the day and then running his dog in the Oakland Hills. And I was just like, I mean, I had been around cocaine before and people doing it and partying and raging, but I'd never been around someone just so casually talking about doing cocaine after they had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever, and then running their dog in the hills. It was so rock and roll. But yeah. Anyway, so I didn't get the gig, and then flash forward like 10 years later, Scott Sargent calls me again and asks if I could play a couple of Laaz Rockit tunes at this event happening at Slim's. This was like in 97, 98. So maybe like 8 years later. And there was an event happening at Slim's. It was a memorial show for a woman who passed away that was very influential in the San Francisco Bay Area metal scene, especially in San Francisco. Not Debbie Abono. I can't remember who the woman was. I didn't know her. But they're having an event for her in her honor at Slim's. And Vicious Rumors played. And Tom Hunting had a Black Sabbath thing that played. And Tom was singing and drumming. That was pretty fucking awesome because he obviously can drum a Sabbath song, but he can also sing one pretty damn well. So that was pretty impressive. He did that. Anyways, they asked Laaz Rockit to be a part of it. And, well, a version of Laaz Rockit played there. Certainly not this version. It was myself on drums. And then the other four members had been in Laaz Rockit at some point in time. Scott Sargent on guitar. Who else? John Torres was on bass, I believe. Sven Soderlund was on second guitar. And he was in Laaz Rockit for a little while. He co-wrote the song Leatherface. And then Mike Coons, the original vocalist, was the singer. So he was the only legit member of Laaz Rockit on stage. But and technically, I wasn't in Laaz Rockit, but I did play with them for 45 minutes, 8 years earlier. So let's go for it. Anyways, we jammed out. We didn't even rehearse. In fact, earlier in the day, Old Grandad played on Market Street at the very first Tidal Wave. What a crazy fucking day and night. I remember Scott Sargent and maybe John Torres showing up to that gig. The Old Grandad playing, and they were just watching me like a hawk to make sure I wasn't dropping acid or doing rails of speed or drinking. You know how Old Grandad did it back then. So they were kind of policing me at this gig. I remember being really fucking annoyed by that. What the fuck, man? This is the Old Grandad show. Don't you know what Old Grandad's about? But anyways, I packed my drums away. I couldn't hang out and party and enjoy the event because I had to go to Slim's and jam with Laaz Rockit. So I played on Tom Hunting's kit at the event at Slim's, which is really fucking cool. It's the first time I played on a really nice kit like that, and that was a real treat. His kit was dialed in. I remember while we were jamming, we played Leatherface, Prelude to Death, Fire in the Hole, and one other song I can't remember. But I just remember while we were playing, Mike Coons just looked back and said, "I don't even know who this guy is. I've never met this guy before in my life, and he's pretty good." And so we got through the songs, actually. We fucking ripped them up. It was great. I have it on cassette still somewhere, and it turned out good. So anyways, that was that. So fast forward to 2001 or 2, whenever the Chuck Billy benefit happened at the Maritime Hall, I get a phone call from guess who? Scott Sargent once again, asking if I want to drum for Laaz Rockit at this Chuck Billy benefit that's happening. And I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? I mean, I had already heard about it. And, it's for a great cause to help Chuck. Actually, both Chucks. Chuck Schuldiner, too, from death. But also, it's the most significant thrash metal event to happen possibly ever. Or in the top 5, I would say. and the first one to happen in the Bay Area in a very long time. So they were bringing bands like Death Angel back and Violence and all these bands. So of course I wanted to be a part of that too, you know, as well as the great cause. So I was like, yeah, I'm in, dude. Fuck yeah. Like all the bands, Laaz was playing earlier in the day, so we only had to learn like 6 songs or 7 songs. It wasn't like a grueling set. So I was down. I told Scott, let's fucking do it. So he gave me a list of songs to freshen up on, and I was doing my homework for a couple of weeks, and then I think it was the week of the fucking show, I get the call that lead vocalist Mike Coons decided he doesn't want to do the event because I think he had just gotten sober and maybe even had become a born-again Christian and just didn't want to be involved, maybe for those reasons. Whatever the fucking reason, at the end of the day, Laaz Rockit didn't play. I was fucking crushed. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? You can't just hold out for one more week, dude. I mean, come on, let's play this fucking gig. And it really sucked because Laaz Rockit's logo was on all the t-shirts, all the posters that were sold at the event. So, it goes down in the annals of time that Laaz Rockit played if you look at the poster. But no, Flotsam and Jetsam ended up replacing Laaz Rockit, and they killed. In fact, I thought Flotsam and Jetsam was the best band of the event. Man, they were fucking incredible. The best time I'd ever seen them. Yeah, so I was pretty devastated that I didn't get to play that event. And, anyways, I love Laaz Rockit. They kick ass. This album, Annihilation Principle, and the follow-up album, Nothing Sacred. That's like the trifecta of their kick ass, super heavy, super just ripping, almost thrash to thrash, records. I love them. So if you're not familiar with this one, check it out. It's a good one to start with. And I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.